Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Michi Makes Up. Today we're going to take the Dior Backstage eye palette in Plum Neutrals. We're going to create some looks with this. And if you saw my previous Dior video on these palettes, I used the Neutrals palette to create two looks. And we did swatches of both of these. And also I took some palettes I have in my collection to do some comparisons with this one. So we're going to do a dedicated video with the Plum Neutrals today. I'll also do some comparisons at the end. So I have my makeup done. I have my brows done, foundation's all set. Let's just dive right into the palette. I'm first going to go in with the primer, the eye primer that's already included on the palette, and I'm going to use a finger to tap that on. In my other video, in my first video, I used a brush, and it was fine. It's just fine. Either your finger or a brush works just as well. And supposed to smooth the lid out, prime your eyes so it's ready for the shadows. Everything does look smoother and it gives it kind of that even or more even pigment on the lids. I'm going to go into this shade here, which is Dusky Mauve, and I'm placing that all over the lids. Then I'm taking this Mallow Rose and putting that on top of the upper lash line and diffusing upwards towards the middle of the lid. This is a really pretty shade. And then going into this plum shade, we're adding that to the outer corner and blending the shade into the crease. Then with a finger, I'm going into Rose, this metallic shade here, and I am popping that onto the center of the lid, going into the crease. And taking a crease brush, I'm going to bring that plum shade from the outer corners further into the crease. And then going back into Dusty Mauve here, I'm just going to lightly add a little bit here to better transition into that plum shade. Okay. All right, for the left eye, since we already used the purples and plums on this side here, I'm going to go into more of these shades. So let's see what we're gonna do. I'm going to take light copper and put that all over the lids. These shades are really beautiful, and depending on your skin tone and your preference, you could easily use these shimmers, like any of them that are shimmers, as your one and done. I think this is really pretty. Now I'm taking dark bronze and I'm putting that above the lash line. Going into soft gold, we're adding that very generously above dark bronze. Then taking silver pink, I'm going to put that onto the inner corner. Going back to under the eyes, I'm going to take this shade again. I'm adding that onto the lower lash line. Taking Rose and putting that onto just the center here. On the other side, I'm just going to take light copper and add a little bit of color here. Just keeping it simple and easy. On the right eye, I'm going to go into, with Chantecaille's Luster Glide Silk Infused Eyeliner onto the upper lash. And then on the left eye, I'm going to do the same thing, but with Clinique's Quick Liner that is in the shade, is it Chocolat? Intense Chocolate. So let me do that off camera, put on mascara, then we'll come back for the rest of the face. All right, I've been really enjoying the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Palette Universe. So I'm going to take that palette today and we're going to use most of the powders on here to finish up this look. So first thing, I'm going to take the Infinity powder here and put that as a finishing powder all over the face. Next, I'm taking Strobe Blush Vibrant Heat and placing that onto the cheeks. Following that, we'll use the highlighter. This is a Strobe Powder Supernatural Strobe Light. And then taking the bronzer, Glistening Bronze Light, I'm using that to warm up my complexion. For lips in my last video on that Hourglass Universe palette, I used a Lisa Eldridge Luxuriously Lucent lipstick, and it's been a couple of weeks since I put on her sheer lipsticks, and I thought, wow, these are great. I really do love them. So I'm going back today for more, and I'm going to use the shade Love of My Life. And with the look that I have now, since these are neutrals on my eyes, I could really go for a neutral lip, something that's deeper, but we're gonna add a pop of color instead because I'm not sure, I'm just in the mood for a little bit more color on my lips. I think with this lip color, Love of My Life, it does go better with the look I have on my right eye because of the purples and plum, although with the neutral eye look, you can pair it with whatever lip you want and it would just be fine. And I'm really liking how everything is looking. Of course, being a fan of purple, plums and taupe eyeshadow and mauve eyeshadows, I am all about the right eye, this smoky purple look. I'm also really enjoying the Ambient Universe palette. This is my favorite out of the three that I have. So this is the third one and this is my favorite. I think it just has to do with, I'm impressed with this all over face powder, this Infinity powder. I think it is superior to the two finishing powders from the previous palettes. And then, the highlight too. It's not quite a cool highlight, not quite warm. I think kind of in between when I put it next to Sculpture and Ghost, which are the two previous years Ambient face palettes. And yeah, I just like the blushes more. The highlight, I think the bronzer is actually really similar to Sculpture, so don't have any strong opinions there. It's not a repeat because all four of these shades are brand new to the Ambient powder family, but I think these four here just stand out, so I really am enjoying everything, and it just looks so smooth. The Infinity powder just makes everything look so smooth, and on top of that, you add the blush, you add the bronzer. They're smooth to begin with because of the Ambient, the technology they infuse with these powders. It just looks quite flawless, I must say. All right. If you're interested in the Hourglass palette, I do have a demo and review video up already. It should be, by the time this goes up, it should be like the most recent. I'll also have a link below for you to check out. And then now let's get into some comparisons because this really, especially, These shades right here really remind me of a few purple eyeshadow palettes that I have. So let me take those out and we'll do some swatch comparisons. The first palette that comes to mind is going to be Natasha Denona's Lila palette. And it's really just a few shades from here that reminds me of this. But this very look that I created is something that when I first got the Lila palette and I was playing around, I feel like this was a look I would get out of this palette. And namely, I'm thinking of this shade here, this shade, and possibly this one. It really is not too similar because it's kind of cool. Like maybe you could say there's some resemblance to that. So it just really has the vibe of like these few shades here. So I will swatch them. So let's get some of these on my arm and then I'll swatch the one from Natasha Denona. So we have the mauve shade. And then this is the plum shade. And this is Mallow Rose. Let's add another Asian. And from Natasha Denona, I have, this is Pure Pure, Viola, and then Livid. Pure Pure and Viola, these two look so similar. And my palette, I've had it for going on 2 years, not quite, like a few months shy, and the shelf life of this palette is 2 years. So I don't think it has anything to do with like expiration, anything that's like really oxidized over time. I just think these two is very representative of Mallow Rose, and you could probably use these three interchangeably to create very similar looks. As for Livid here, it just doesn't look like anything that I have on my arm from Dior. Although, now that I'm looking at it like this, I'm interested in swatching this matte shade here per se, because I think it has that mauve, like dusty mauve vibe that this shade has. Not the same, but I think it's a similar idea for sure. And then the next comparison I have here is also from Dior. It's their Pink Sakura palette. These two remind me of a few shades from the Backstage palette. So let's swatch those. So this is more mauve-y, these shades, and they have a lighter payoff than the Dior Backstage palette, but it still kind of channels that same vibe. This was released during the spring, so I do think that, you know, overall they were going for a lighter look. And the Backstage palettes are generally known for being more pigmented and a little bit more intense in comparison to the Quints. So I don't think this palette is a dupe for what you can find here, although if you missed out on Pink Sakura, you might want to consider this Plum Neutrals palette, because I think you can get, you know, you could just really focus on the softer shades and then add in one of these, either the Mallow Rose or this plum shade here to deepen things a little bit, but it can still give you something that might look like you used to create your look. So that's my recommendation. And then my last comparison, also again from Dior, is going to be the Quint Romantic Voyage. I don't think it'll be too similar, but I feel like these two shades here channels these two shades. So let's take a look. So we have the light pink shade, and then the center shade from the Quint. Definitely similar. But this is, nah, they're similar. I mean, this one might be a little bit more metallic in finish, but very similar. And I realized I did not swatch the pink shade from here. And the shade from the Backstage palette is called Rose, and it is a metallic shade. So this being that the finish is more metallic, this is more of a shimmer finish. And I guess it's a more satin metallic, whereas this is more foil-like. And the shade here I put in the middle on the lower lash line so that it would reflect light more as I turn. There's a bit more texture and some differences. And I also put it above here, center of the lid, and kind of a little bit upwards into the crease, so it would brighten everything up on the, like it's the brightest part of the eye, especially when I'm moving. So I am really enjoying this Plum Neutrals palette along with the bronze neutrals. And if you are interested in seeing the bronze neutrals palette, the looks that I created, also the comparisons, I will have that video below, the link to it as well. And if I had to pick one or the other, that's tough. I'm gonna go with Plum Neutrals because I do love purple eyeshadows. Like at the end of the day, if you say you can only use one palette, one eye palette for the rest of your life, or if you're stranded on an island but you can take an eyeshadow palette with you, I don't know. But yeah, if you could do that, I think I would go with a purple eyeshadow palette. So if I had to pick, it'd be this one. And while there aren't a whole lot of shades that are purple and pink, I think you get enough that it's okay. You can call this a plum palette because there's just enough. You can also mix colors together to give you variances of these, you know, deeper shades. But the two that they included here to represent the plum part of this palette are excellent. They are intense, they're pigmented, you will see them when you put them on your lid. Everything else is a bit lighter, a bit more, you know, either they're all about that shimmery bright finish, like this light gold here, same with this shade here, and the others are, you know, just there to kind of complement and give you more texture or more dimension. You can see in this eye where I didn't use any of these, either one of these, it's a very light neutral look. In fact, it reminds me of Cruise Look a little bit too, with these lighter shades here. So I guess the other reason that I like this palette is you can get two types of looks with it. It's not just the plums. So yeah, I am, you know, stranded and I can only pick one. I guess I'll choose this one. I can create looks that nobody's gonna see, but they'll be different. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I will see you again very soon in the next one. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider giving this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified every time new content is released. Bye.